Who's working with PMD at the moment? No. We have a few. I'm not going to say anything. Right, okay. It's going to be a little bit interactive, and we're going to go through this quite quickly, I think, just to keep up with the times. No worries. If you have any questions, please stop and ask. Again, my name is Trooper. Don't worry about my first name. Not important. I go by my last name. Yes. Okay. So analyze your code with PMD. It's a little bit like you don't only have to use it for code. It can be used for other things, but we'll talk about it in a bit. Okay. Objectives for this talk. So get a general understanding of what it is. Getting comfortable with the documents, with the docs, learning how to read them, how to find their ways there. Taking action, integrating into your current projects, please. I hope I'm going to inspire you to do that, and then maybe be brave enough to, and I can inspire you to write your own rules. And there are two things about your own rules. You can either do it in your own project, or you can contribute, and I'll explain how in a bit. The agenda. What is it? What is PMD? We'll go over why do we need it? What's it good for? Who should use it? Where should it be used? When we should use it? And how does it work? And how can we use it? And additional resources. So far, so good? Yeah. Okay, cool. So what is PMD? The legend says that it stands for Programming Mistakes Detector. I'm saying the legend is because the inventor of PMD does not agree on what's the origin of the PMD initials themselves. There is a suggestion that it is named after, I think, a rock or metal band as well, which I don't remember the name. But yeah, I thought that one's the most appropriate one, and I think the internet agrees with me that this is the most appropriate one. So Programming Mistakes Detector. But you are free to come up with your own explanation and submit. It's a static code analysis tool. So here I want to highlight the word static. So there is no code execution and no runtime behavior. What do we get out of it? And what don't get out of it? So it's not able to identify logic error. It's not able to tell you, oh, your math is off. Your procedural logic is off. You're actually calling your variable before you're instantiating it. Your business logic is off. No one's going to tell you that your business logic is off. No help there. And it's not going to tell you about government limits. It's not going to tell you, oh, you're actually running a few queuables here at the moment or batchables at the same time, and it's going to fail. That's not what it's going to give you. What it will give you is ability to adhere to best practices and unify your source code. So it's for functional accuracy and consistency within your team and within your project, and over making sure that, oh yeah, I'm actually fulfilling the requirement that the business wants me to fulfill. It's open source. So it started well, I could not find the exact year. It was first written or came to be. A guy named Tom, I forgot his last name, published a book in 2005 about PMD, but it seems like it's been around because he didn't take credit for coming up with the idea. And then it's based on Java, It's based on Java. It's a project, it's open source, which means that you can find it also on GitHub, and I'll show you how to find it on GitHub and where the repository is. And you do need the Java runtime engine for that to be installed if you are installing PMD directly on your machine. And I will go about other options to install on your machines without that in a bit. And I just wanted to give credit for Robert. I don't know if you guys know about him, heard his name, but he is one of the people who led moving this fantastic tool into Apex. Basically, he started working with it and he said, yeah, if this is able to cater for other languages, which it is, which is JavaScript, Java, C#, C++, and others, why not bring it into Apex and make sure that the Salesforce community is also able to use it. Are you fact-checking me?
No. It's looking good.
Okay, why do we need it? So we want to enforce standards within our projects. Maintenance, we have two points here for maintenance. One is mixed levels and turnovers. So when we're thinking about maintenance in our code, we're thinking about the people who are actually going to work on the project. We don't know in the future they're going to be seniors, they're going to be juniors, like depends on the budget and how the company will decide on hiring. And we are not sure how long people are going to stick around. So if we have a way to enforce standards automatically, this is already going to bring our source code quality to a higher level. The other thing is readability speed. And this is when it's super helpful when you're working in the same source for a long time. But even when you are onboarded into a project, if you learn to read one file, like in terms of getting used to naming conventions, variables, the order of the documentations and notes on the file itself, you are able to pick up all the rest of the notes, like all the rest of the source code, faster than you think you need to adjust for five different developers. Each one has their own styles, different level, and stuff like that. So these are the keys for maintenance. Scalability, again, is coming towards your both your code, that you are able to scale your code because it's cleaner and higher quality, but also your team, right? We want to onboard people fast so we can add value to the business fast and get stuck in the project fast. This is one of the tools that help us both scale the code, but also scale our team. Consistency, as I mentioned, and security and the latest Apex features, because this is still being maintained. So if you have it up and running in your project, and there is a security update that is running with Apex, for example, back then it was with system mode or with user mode, this will be flagged for you while you're writing the code. So that's just another thing to, oh yeah, I remember in the winter release, this came out. Now this is the opportunity for me to implement it. And my personal favorite is improved PR pull request processes, because it takes out maybe 10-15% of the things that you need to look for when you start a pull request, right? If you just get a pull request from someone, you will go and it's like, okay, did you name your variables correctly? Is it based on like, is it readable? Are you following the coding standards that we have in the company? All of that is being automated for you, and you can actually focus on, does your code do what it's supposed to be doing? Are you taking the best approach, like looking at this problem? So yeah, for me, this is like the highlight here. Anyone that uses PMD has something else that they want to add to the list that is not here? Cool. Okay, who? Developers, obviously, use it. Team leads can use it, and admins can use it. So I don't know if you are aware, but admins are also, and I'll show you in a bit, able to use it because PMD, the way it's running, can also review the metadata. So it can review your XML files. All our metadata is written in XML. You can actually have rules to say, oh, when you're naming a field, it should follow this standard. Or when you're naming a flow and you bring it into the repo, it should have this naming conventions. So this is a way admins can use PMD or with admin PMD, and team leads always keep an eye of the quality of the source code in general. Where should we use it? Local on your IDE or in CI tools. It's a static code analysis. It's not going to run in compilation time. You have to save the file, and on save, it will actually analyze your code and highlight any potential issues then based on the rule set that you are using. So CI tools, I'm not going to cover them so much, but I know for sure that tools like Pado, GearSet, even GitHub Actions, anything that Bitbucket, anything that you can plug with sequential continuous implementation. You can plug there the checks. It's just like it's running LWC test. You can run it in the same way and make sure that you have quality getting into your branch before even you bother looking at the pull request. So, IDE. So this is an example of, I want to just like break me talking and give you a chance to talk for a second. So this is an example from the documentation. And again, my objective is one of the objectives is to make the documentations as accessible for you as possible, so you don't need to remember this talk and you feel comfortable going through them all by yourself. Okay, what's wrong here? So much, I know. Give me one. One thing that is wrong here.
Deeply nested.
Deeply nested, yes.
Clearing here.
Without limits, software without limits.
Software without limits. For loops. For loop, what do we have in the for loop?
Selected a loop.
Yeah. It's not great. Even our conditions, right? So what would it look like if I have PMD running? So when I have just on that bit of code that we had here, I can get all these warnings, right? So it says Apex classes should declare sharing mode, right? We don't have sharing mode. We always go explicit rather than implicit for readability and to make sure that we're doing the right thing, right? Avoid software queries inside a loop. We all know that. That's the famous thing for mistakes. Validate the CRUD permissions before you run your DMLs, because I think we have, no, before you're querying, right? Before you're querying. So CRUD for create, read, update, delete. Avoid empty block statement or empty if statement. And of course, the deeply nested one. So this is an example, even this small block of code, when you hit save, you get all these warnings. Just like you open your terminal in VS Code, you have there a tab with problems, it will be there. All the list, and you can go one by one, it will tell you the line, and you can address it separately. Or you can go one by one with a squiggly line, and you hover over it, and it will tell you exactly what is the problem, and you can address it then. How do you get it with PMD to VS Code? And that's the fastest way. So in extensions in the marketplace, you click, you look for PMD, Apex PMD. This is the example I just showed you. You can always get the latest and get updated and make sure that it's installing your project properly. And then you can configure it even more. So when I'm highlighting something in my extension, I have the cog here. When I click on the cog, VS Code is opening two options for me, for the user and workspace, because you can generalize your settings beyond the specific project and beyond the specific machine. And there you can select your rule set that you want, if you have your own personal one or for the company across different projects, when PMD should run, and other options that are there. Okay, so that was the where in your local IDE. CI tools, as we mentioned, I'm not going to go over that, but also where, like within which context, in an end user project or in a consultancy, right? So end user, you want to make sure that you have this unified to get it out of the way. Consultancy, it's going to be even more enforced to make sure that even if you have someone from inside that is from in-house that is working with you, you are working on the same level of code readability. Okay, when should we use it? While we're working, that's the best advice I can give you, and before PR review. Like, there is no point of you going and reading a PR and then saying, oh, you could have named your class differently, or you could have named your variable differently, or I can't believe I'm going to, like, someone in this room is actually going to do it, but put your Stockwell or DML in a loop. All of that is, there's no need. Like, you know, if you have a junior someone who just started with Apex, or someone who's making the transition between admin and developer, that's the thing to flag. This is the tool to flag all the errors for them. You can do it at the start of the project when you are just being onboarded, just to know what the general situation is, especially if you're a consultancy and you're starting a project, and also at the end of the project, because you want to know that you're leaving the world a better place than you found it. Okay. Nerd alert. This is how it works behind the scenes. So, We have language. This is working on just any language model. I thought it's nice to show you guys, just also for you to understand how LLMs are approaching natural language. It does it in exactly the same way. A sentence is being tokenized and into a tree. As you can see here, this is an example from Wikipedia. So we have here the while statement and the return, and this is the tree that the parser is going through to try and analyze basically the statement. What does it look like on class level? It looks a bit like this. So that we have like a really simple class here, account details, and then it will show you the nesting levels. Why is it important? It's important because this is the way PMD is working in the background with abstract syntax trees, and it gives an opportunity for the rules to run each line at a time. So I'm trying to it's not so scary. Like you can also write your own rules, and we get to that. Okay, now we're over. Okay, we have categories in PMD. So we have, at the moment, out of the box in Apex, when you just get PMD, you get 9 best practices rules, 12 code style rules, design rules, documentation rules, which is like 1, do you have the documentation about your method and classes or not? Error-prone rules, performance rules, and security rules. What do they, as an example? So, example for best practices rules, Apex unit test should not use C all data equals true. For code style rules, while must use braces. We know it's optional, but we can force it if that's what the style in the company that we work for is like it's suiting our style. Design rules. Avoid deeply nested if statement, or excessive parameter list. And you can set up your own amount on some of them. So parameter list, for example, you can say what is like too much. You know, if it's 4 is too much or 5 is too much. Let's go over all of that. So you have here different examples. Can you give me an example that something like it's knowledge I'm sure you have? So error-prone rules, they have at the moment 4 rules, for example, to highlight empties. So we saw an example of empty if statement, empty block, conditional block, final try catch, final empty block, all these type of things that we want to make sure that they're actually doing things there and people are not just adding them for fun. Or avoid things in a loop. There are 8 things that you can avoid in a loop that will find them for you quickly. And the security rule, these are 3 examples for that as well. This is what the documentation of one rule, this is what it looks like. And I hope you look at this and it's like, that's not scary. Mostly English, I can read it. I have an example of what it looks like if I should get the error. And I have a reference of what it should look like in my rule set, which is a file that I'll show you an example for it next. So this one, for example, if I have if test see all data equal true, which is a big no-no, this PMD will highlight this, and you can have in your CI rules to say, don't allow this to be deployed, don't allow this to merge, don't allow even to raise a PR. This is what a simple rule set file, XML file, looks like. This is, I put an example for 2 design rules that you have. So what I want to show you here with this specific example, it can be as simple or as complex as you want it to be. You can start small. You can start with just 1 rule, 2 rules, and go from there. You don't have to have the whole thing. If you are interested in having the whole thing, PMD, as I said, is open source. It's on GitHub. All you need to do is navigate here, and you will have a quick start of rules set that PMD is recommending. That is already built for you. Download the file, copy it to your project, adjust it the way you want, delete things, change things. It's for you to play with. If you are using the out-of-the-box in VS Code, this is the rules that are being enforced by this plugin. So if you're curious to know what's going on, these are the rules. Again, open source, you can find it there on GitHub. Okay, agility and false positive. Sometimes PMD will give us some false positives, so I thought it's worth highlighting it. in terms of agility, we don't have, like as I said, we don't have to cater for all the rules, but we also don't have to cater for all the files or everything within a file. So false positive, let's start with an example. So we have here 2 examples. I might have already checked in somewhere else, and I know that my profile is a system admin, and therefore I don't need to restrict it in any way, or it's running without sharing, some reason, sorry. And there is no need to go the extra step and put it there, okay? That will be a false positive example. An insert example, I could have stripped before all the non-updatable, non-editable, non-readable fields before, and I would still get this as an error. So how do I move past that? I can suppress my warnings. So there are different levels of suppressions. You can just say, oh, this file, forget about PMD, it's not a thing. It's too messy, I don't even know where to start, I need to refactor the whole thing. You can say, okay, use PMD, but suppress just one rule because it's too much for me right now. Or you can even go and say on a line basis, right? Don't use PMD for here, and you can see the / no PMD just on this one. And this is the same line exactly, and I do get the PMD error here. So make your, what I'm trying to say is be agile about it. Don't worry about if you turn it on, you will not be able to continue with your project. You can pick and choose and slowly integrate it to the full rule set that you are after. Additional resources. If this was not comprehensive enough, on YouTube, there is Code Live. It's really comprehensive to show you how to install it in your local machine if you want to do it outside of VS Code. Kia wrote 2 blogs about it. You can go and have a look. They are a bit more advanced and show you also how to work with the rule sets. And if you really feel comfortable, you can go and look through Apex hours. We'll show you how to also contribute on the Java level of that. And I'll show you an example. So PMD has a rule designer, which comes with PMD when you install it directly and not from VS Code. And it's easy to spin it up as just PMD designer on your terminal. And this is what it looks like. It's a Java-based UI, and you can write your code here in the middle. I am actually using Rob Sussman example that he had an article about. He's showing here an example of writing your custom rule to say debug statement should have 2 parameters within it. So you need to have the login level and your message or whatever you're logging into. So in this example, line 5 will be highlighted, while line 6 will pass. In order to get that, when you save, you have actually something automated in the background to help you write the XPath rule, that you can then just copy paste it into your rule set. And that's what it will look like in your rule set. You just copy paste that. So there is no need to learn how to necessarily work with Java. If you want to contribute to the open source, go for it, but you can also practice it in your own project and play around with it. Another thing that is coming with PMD if you install it through a terminal is CPD, and this is really helpful if you are want to know how many times you wrote the same line of code. So it's a duplication detection or copy-paste detection, basically. And I thought it's worth mentioning it because Salesforce Scanner is actually integrating this as well. So these are the elements that are in Salesforce Scanner. Salesforce Code Scanner is based on PMD, and they're using the Graph Engine, PMD, CPD, ESLint, and their entire GS. And yeah, that was the talk. I hope I was not going fast enough, but we went through what it is, why do we do it, who should do it, where, when, how it works, and additional resources. And again, my objectives for this talk was just to give you a general understanding, if you're feeling comfortable with the docs, because you saw it's all print screens from the docs that we went over. Take action, please integrate it into your projects, and maybe be brave and write your own rules. Yeah. That's it. Done. 5 minutes break before our next talk. Does that sound okay? Yeah? Cool. Any questions? Yes.
I have a question. So it shows a warning if you're not following under the rules, but I can just ignore a warning, right? So how do you make it so I cannot deploy it to a PR?
So that depends on the continuous integration pipeline that you're using. Which one are you using at the moment?
Azure, I think. I don't know.
Azure. So I'm sure there are steps that you can take action to have this running as test, and then say, because it generates the reports, right? What I showed on the terminal tab. This one. You can also save it to file, and you can generate a report from that. And then basically, if the report fails, you failed.
Because I think we do have it, but we are not doing anything with it.
I actually implemented this one, so I can tell you. So, you know that print screen where you had the config of each rule? You can configure the severity that you want to apply to each rule. And if you give it a severity value of 1, when it runs in a CLI, it will output 1 to the CLI, meaning it will fail.
But it's still a warning.
It will not be. It will be a warning there, but once it runs in a CLI system, which could be as a DevOps, it could be GitHub Actions, it will instead stop the CLI operation with an error, so your pipeline will stop that.
You could also look at a git commit hook, which stops the code even getting into source control if it fails those tests. There's a bit more jumping through hoops for that. But that stops it at the developer, so they can't actually save the code if there's those kind of issues.
No, I need to save it.
And for sure, you can stop it as well. Like not that it's suitable for you, but with GiveSet and Fofado, which are UIs based for admins, you can stop them from committing if it fails.
What Trooper is showing there is exactly right. There's a tag called. I need to go through petitions. There's a tag called priority with a number against it. And if you set it to 1, it will make it a priority 1, meaning if it fails at the point.
Or it will show you if it's a lower one, it will just show you instead of an error, it will flag as a warning. Any other questions? Cool. Break time. Thank you guys.